Good night. Good evening. What's going on, everybody? It's myself, John D. Villarreal. We're having a little bit of a focus thing there. I've got a cine lens there. So it does some slow pulls there on focus. Yeah. What's going on? It is an awesome, awesome night. I'm joined by Paul at Villarreal. We are live right now to LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. And wow, we did a launch last night. We did a reveal last night, or Paul did a reveal on X. And let me tell you something, that has been so hugely viewed. Paul has a big channel there. We went into it. We talked about it. You can join the chat here. I believe I can see the YouTube chat. I don't know about the other platforms. Maybe some of the other platforms we'll certainly follow up afterwards. But I can just tell you, I think it's up to like 1,800 views or something like that, or right around there. Impressions are over 5,000. That's on mine. I think you reposted on yours, Paul. It's even more. Tremendous amount of fanfare. You know, Paul was telling people to come follow me. I picked up several hundred followers. Just tremendous show last night. We appreciate everybody out there, and that's fantastic. Now, spinning it forward here, talking about what we want to talk about right now. Let's talk about this whole situation with Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon over there in Davos had some incredible comments. Was on with Andrew Ross Sorkin, Becky Quick, and the rest there, and just really had a quote, and people have been talking about it. Patrick Bet-David's been talking about it. A lot of other people have been talking about it, about basically how Trump was right about a lot of things. But not only that, Paul, but he also said that the Democrats in the media, you know, sort of punking out and making fun of the MAGA supporters or Trump supporters was just kind of out of bounds and wasn't really helpful. And these are our fellow citizens, and we need to come together. And I find that, like, you know, Jamie Dimon, a lot of times, who is and let me just put some context, he is the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, the biggest bank out there, I believe, or certainly one of them, and just, you know, trillions of dollars of transactions that go through that bank. I think he's been very sort of reasonable. I think he's been someone that is, you know, understands. Now, you know, he had, as was pointed out, and I noticed this as well, was pointed out on Patrick Bet-David's show, had the Ukraine pin on and everything like that. But, you know, it was at Davos and whatever. But these comments were very powerful. Now, there's some different rumors out there, whatever. I don't know about any of that. But, I mean, you could see Andrew Ross Sorkin's face and Becky Quick's face. Like, they didn't know what to do. I mean, I think it was almost like there was a question there that was kind of, I think, I don't want to say leading, but it seemed to lend itself to, from Andrew Ross Sorkin's, my opinion only, it sort of seemed to me like it was, oh, hey, you know, maybe people don't perceive the economy, that maybe the economy is way better than people perceive and whatever. And Dimon just went into this and also warned about the economy. He said, listen, we've got big amounts of debt and quantitative easing. We've never seen this before. At some point, you know, the bills is going to come due. And there's been different people talking about different amounts of rate cuts. And people think, oh, there's going to be 6 rate cuts. And other people say, no, there's going to be 3. But there's a number of billionaires and big leaders out there, and people connected in the financial industry, they're saying that, you know, it can get pretty rough. 2024 can get pretty rough. And in fact, 2024 already is rough. I mean, there's the Bank of America. If you look at their earnings and the amount of defaults that they're dealing with, I mean, I think the consumer is pretty tapped out there. I don't want to be gloom and doom, but I am saying that the idea that everything's great, soft landing, no, Bidenomics is all, I'm not on that bandwagon at all. Paul, what do you make of Jamie Dimon's comments? I mean, to see a leader of that stature, who I would say is pretty much of an establishment type of, you know, definitely, you know, an establishment in Wall Street, an establishment, you know, type of figure, to be able to say that, I mean, that is a big deal. What do you make of that? How do you unpack that?
Look, it was huge. I posted this on my timeline on X earlier today. People were, of course, you know, were very receptive to it. What you said is correct. The setup from Andrew Ross Sorkin was pretty much that. Like, hey, what people think about the economy could affect the election, with, again, kind of, in my sense, the leading the leading question angle of it's really good, isn't it? The economy is actually pretty good, isn't it, Jamie? And instead of kind of going in that direction, I mean, he was pretty even-handed on that aspect of it. But then he decided, Jamie Dimon, to kind of give his own angle on Trump and MAGA, which is basically saying, look, first of all, we should kind of respect Trump some more. He had some pretty good ideas on a variety of issues, and we need to respect MAGA more and stop kind of saying like, oh, geez, they're following Trump for possibly negative reasons. No, they're following Trump because he had good policies. So this is what he said. As you said, the host, I don't think we're ready for that.
No.
And then at the end of his
Not
comments,
my opinion.
No, and I didn't seem like it. They didn't seem really happy about it. Let me put it that way.
Did
and
not seem happy to me
remarks,
either. Other than, and I really feel bad. Is I know the guy, and I don't know him personally, but I know of him. There's the one guy who's pretty Republican there, or more conservative, who always gets into it with Steve Leisman. I can't remember the dude's name. Joe Kernan. That's who it is. It just came back to me.
Okay.
I mean, Joe was fine and stuff. There's a little bit of crosstalk there, but I mean, Andrew Ross Sorkin, Becky Quick. I mean, they didn't it. Just you didn't know what to do. It's almost like you know what it was like, Paul. It was like, I mean, it was almost like when you're a little kid, or a Christmas Story or something like that. When you're a little kid and you find out someone tells you that Santa Claus isn't real, it was just shocking. I mean, it was just something like it just had impact there, and you see their faces. It's just absolutely priceless. But besides like that kind of situation, I mean, I'm interested to hear. Continue your thought, number one, but number two, I really want to hear what you think. The motivation. Why did Jamie Dimon say this? There was some speculation, and I'm not saying they did it, but I heard it on, gonna hat tip credit to the Valuetainment, Patrick Bet-David's show and stuff like that, where, hey, this is basically, they're trying to push Trump to take Nikki Haley as his VP, and if he does that, they're gonna back him, and they're gonna this and that. There was this kind of that kind of discussion. I don't know about that. My own sort of take, and I want to see what your take is. I feel like there's a reality. I've said it, right? I mean, all these things, all these themes that I've been hitting are all coming back. And there's sort of a reality, right? I think that's hitting in 2024, whether it's myself or Cat Williams or all kinds of other people. There's been so much discussion now about the shift. And you can look at Bud Light, Target, Disney, all kinds of other, Hollywood, Marvel, all kinds of other brands that have taken huge hits for the woke stuff and all that. But that's one thing. It's bigger than that. It is the border. It is debt. It is all these things. And these banks, I think it's, what did I say? 100% solution is not a 50% solution is not a 100% solution. That's number one. And number two, there is only one economy. There's not the tech economy and the gig economy and learn to code and all this. Eventually, it all comes due, because you can be the biggest bank in the world and you can try to muscle people, but if your customers don't have money, and depositors don't have money, then what? If the loans go bad, then what? You're punked. And that's, so all these things are connected, and I think. And we'll get to the new president of Argentina and his talk there at Davos about capitalism and why capitalism works and socialism doesn't, but collectivism and socialism. But eventually, the point of it is this. I think, to me, this is more of a sobering assessment of what it's going to take to get out of this mess, number one. And number two, just where things stand politically. You're going to have to deal with Trump if he gets in there in office, and it's looking pretty good. If you look at the RCP averages in terms of the prediction markets and stuff, and I haven't looked at those in a bit, but I already know what probably, I'm pretty confident about that, of what I'm going to find. And I think you're going to find that President Trump, the prediction markets have President Trump ahead of Biden. Let's look at this right now, and let's see here. Let's see this right here. Yeah. I mean, you've got right now. Well, this is just the poll. The Average of polls, you've got Trump up 1.6. That's not the prediction market. I'm trying to find the prediction market here. And so anyway, I'll look at that. But while I do that, here we go. Yeah. I mean, look at this. Look at this. The prediction markets. I mean, you just had a super surge for Trump just this week. It went from all this stuff of like, DeSantis and Haley. You had a prediction of Trump at 37.7 to Biden's 28.9. Massive surge. I mean, relatively, that just shot up almost 4 or 5 points to 41.5 to 30% for Biden, in a super tank of Nikki Haley. So what did I tell you? Haley, it's a 2-person race. That's not what the prediction markets are saying. You had Haley just plummet down, 3%. And in the prediction market there on Real Clear Politics, you've got basically an 11.5% spread. That is massive. I mean, you can explain to the folks out there, Paul, how big that is, but that is a massive, massive differential. And what do you make about that? So why do you think Jamie Dimon, and I got a little bit of a cold here or something, so I apologize to the audience, but why do you think Jamie Dimon did what he did here? And what do you think of the substance of the comments? And also, what do you think of the impact of the comments? Like, how many people are going to, what effect do you think this is going to have on some of the coverage out there and some of the verbiage out there and in Wall Street and a lot of people that maybe, aren't as political or don't like Trump or fill in the blank? Go ahead.
Okay, so the first thing is, I think he did it just for a reason that you mentioned, which is starting to look more likely that Trump's going to win. And so, if he's going to win, then you need to make peace with that. You need to start kind of making things cool if that happens. Another thing I want to add is that at the very end of what Jamie Dimon said, he also said. Not only he said what he said about Trump and MAGA, he also said, in addition to that, also talking about MAGA, he said something to the effect of, I hope that we stop kind of putting down Americans that, like the Bible and this type of thing. That was a shot at President Obama. That was a criticism of President Obama's old comment about, the people, like rural people. I think it was in Pennsylvania. What was really interesting to me about that was that basically what Jamie Dimon was saying overall was, look, we need to stop being so divisive. If you have a difference with people and ideas, talk about ideas. Don't just put down entire groups of people. As a former Democrat, that's one of the things that turned me off so much about the newer wave of Democrats was they didn't want to argue about ideas. They wanted to put you in classify you as part of a group like MAGA and then just smear everybody in that group. And they didn't feel like they had to talk to you about ideas.
I think as Rush used to say, to make you radioactive or something like that. I think that was someone.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. And we've seen a lot of that in recent years. And it's part of it's made things, in my opinion, so divisive and toxic. And I think what Jamie Dimon is saying, look, in his mind, it's a good chance Trump's going to win. The betting markets are reflecting that. And you know what? Maybe we should take a step back from all of this divisiveness.
Yeah, that makes sense to me right there. So what do you think is the impact of this? I mean, where do you think this goes from here in terms of how are people going to react to that, do you think?
I can react with extreme. Well, I mean, I think on the left, it shocked a lot of people because Jamie Dimon is somebody who has been supporting Nikki Haley of late. And I mean, Glenn Greenwald, who was a left-wing journalist, was basically like, look, for years, Jamie Dimon was buddy-buddy with Barack Obama. So for him to say what he said, it's like, whoa, maybe things are shifting here dramatically. So I think it's going to have a big impact.
Okay. So that's very interesting. Now I want, this is going to be a little bit of a shorter show here. Let's also talk about at that same conference, right? Davos out there, WEF, you had basically, the new president of Argentina that excoriated collectivism and capitalism and talked about, collectivism and socialism, and talked about the benefits of capitalism and how basically, so many people in the world went from, extreme poverty to now not being, having the stats almost flipped the other way. It was like a 5 to 95, and now it's 95 to 5. And in terms of capitalism being able to really advance that, but also talked about Argentina's own experience, how they were like, the Paris of Central of South America and stuff, and they had done so well, and now then they felt, they went into this hyperinflation, this socialist type of move, and they dropped to like in the hundreds or 100 something in terms of placing in terms of countries. And for those that don't know, there's really not that many countries in the world. I've got to look it up. I think it's like 180, 200, something like that. I mean, it can change, but that's a big drop. And so now he's faced with the monumental task of trying to turn that country around economically, and it's just a huge deal. The first libertarian that was elected as president of a major country, I think that's a big deal as well. What do you make of the new president of Argentina's comments?
I think it's awesome, and so do a lot of other people who have seen the video. Look, I don't know everything about the history of our recently from Peter St. Onge, who is a PhD economist for Heritage. And basically, I think, kind of reflecting on what Milei said, which is, I think from like 1865 to 1900, they were rolling with capitalism. And then from like 1900 on, they got bogged down in collectivism. What he said, one of the things that he said was that, look, around 1800, like 95% of the world was in poverty. And now here in 2024, 5% of the world is in poverty. So basically his point is what we're doing worked. Capitalism worked. And of course, the 1800s, around the time of the Industrial Revolution, we got more mechanization, more machine help to create products so we could accomplish more rather than having to do everything with our hands. And that allowed capitalism to kind of flourish, and it went hand in hand with capitalism. That's what he's talking about. And the results are undeniable, which is exactly what he was saying. This man is a very educated man. He's an economist himself. He's been a professor. He knows what he's talking about. And I'm glad that he shared it with the world on that stage, because you have to take him seriously from a variety of angles.
What do you think was the reaction? I mean, what have people seen there in terms of the reaction to what he said and everything like that? I mean, do you think in that room, and it was listen, he was introduced by Klaus Schwab. I mean, this is very, very interesting, right? I mean, how about that?
Yeah. Well, in the room, it might not have been received that great. I don't know. I'm not sure.
But a lot of people have been talking about it, and obviously it's resounded worldwide, really. And I think it's giving people a different look, a second look. I mean, to have that powerful of a voice as a libertarian, and as some other people said as well, I mean, if he's able to go in there and be successful, wow. I mean, what kind of impact is that going to have? And you see the leaders around the world, whether it's Hungary, Poland, for a while there, Brazil, Argentina, obviously here in America with Trump. I mean, you're seeing a shift. You're seeing things change out there. And I think people want something a little bit different.
I agree. And he gives a lot of people a voice, gives them hope. You mentioned Poland. Poland now, they just had an election. They might be kind of going back the other way. But it's definitely, like, I have friends that are down, that I talk to on X, who are from Argentina, and they were so elated about this, and were so hopeful about this. The election was a multi-stage election, and so he didn't do great in the first round, and everybody was starting to feel like, oh no, we're going to lose. But then obviously he did win, and I mean, it was like
I think we may have lost
Argentina.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. The Bluetooth there for a second, or something happened. Go ahead. Reload the.
Am I back?
No, you're back. Go ahead and re-up that point.
Yeah. So the overall thing is that Malay's election is, of course, important for Argentina, but it's also extremely important, as you mentioned, for the rest of the world as kind of like a beacon of hope, and that basically that.
Interesting. Okay, so let's also talk about here as we close out, and just as again, a little show here. We just wanted to connect with people and we're trying to do this a little bit more regularly. Of course, we've got the radio show on News Talk 1040. My radio show on News Talk 1040 on Tampa that Paul's on constantly Mondays from 4 to 6. And we always talk about
Eastern time.
Eastern time. Yep. Thank you for that. Definitely. That's correct. New Hampshire. A lot of people are like, you had Governor DeSantis. My ticket got punched out of Iowa. He got second place. Governor Haley. Oh, it's a 2-person race between me and Trump. And then you have Governor Sununu there. You've got Chris Christie dropped out. Governor Christie dropped out. Vivek Ramaswamy dropped out, endorsed Trump, and he's been doing a lot of stumping and surrogate work there for Trump. Very effectively so. You saw them both on stage right there. And look, the latest polls show that Trump is doing well, and that I think there's a bump from Iowa. What do you make of what's going on in New Hampshire, and what would you predict going into Tuesday?
Let me just say one final thing about the radio show. When the show is on Mondays, I'll try to post a link to the station where you can listen live and all that stuff. So we'll try to keep people up to date with that.
Absolutely.
Yesterday, I posted because all the radio shows get archived to YouTube. And so I posted a YouTube link so that people could go and watch one of the old shows with your professor, John Yu. What I think is that Trump's in a very good position. One of the polls, I want to say Suffolk, is doing a daily tracking poll. And from yesterday to today, they had Nikki Haley gaining 2 points and Trump staying even at 50%. Nikki Haley went to 36%. It's not enough. It just isn't enough. I don't think she's be able to close the distance in enough time. And her biggest supporter in the state, who is Governor Sununu, apparently, according to a Breitbart article, in his remarks, was basically conceding she's going to lose, and basically said something to the effect of, well, the goal was always a strong second. Well, guess what? If you finish second, that's it. So that's a strong second isn't going to get the job done here.
Well, that's the thing. And you have DeSantis that's gone on to South Carolina. I mean, you have a situation where Governor Haley, in third place in Iowa, losing in New Hampshire, and then very likely at this point losing in her home state of South Carolina. I don't know how you recover. I don't know where you go from there. It just makes no sense whatsoever. And then you have these comments by Jamie Dimon. You have Ted Cruz coming out, Senator Cruz coming out and endorsing President Trump. You have a lot of things that are sort of coalescing around Trump right now. And in fact, you also have other things happening out there in the culture with, again, Cat Williams. I can't tell you how big that was, but it's not just Cat Williams now. You have some comments here by Charlemagne the God, right? Charlemagne the God, who a lot of out of New York City, big DJ over there, who basically from Breitbart, a hat tip right here. Quote, Charlemagne the God laughs at Joe Biden, saying Joe has, quote, energy and vigor, unquote, to beat Trump, unquote. Okay, that right there, I mean, when you start losing the culture, I mean, the left always has a lock on the culture. They usually do. And so what I'm saying is that people out there, and then you have obviously this whole situation with the Atlanta DA. Now, I don't know what's going on. There's been some reporting there about Governor Kemp. Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG, has asked for a probe of for corruption there. Again, Breitbart there by Wendell Huspo, but listen, that DA, there is scrutiny right now based upon these allegations out there. Media report. I'm not alleging anything. The media reports that maybe there's been a lot of money and that was someone that was on the team there is there I don't know, she's potentially connected romantically or something. Again, I'm not making any allegations, but that person was making a lot of money. It's out there, and how do you defend that if that's even remotely possibly true? I mean, how do you defend that? And it just, I mean, and you start looking at these different things against Trump, and it starts looking like a clown show, dude. And even someone else said this too on CNN, and I'm going to get this a little bit wrong. Not, this is my personal recollection, if you will, characterization of this, but it was basically like this analyst, this legal analyst, like, look, maybe any one thing has some validity or whatever. I'm not talking about any one case, but when you take them all together, it does look, it can look to the American people that they're piling on, and it's just starting. The point is it's starting to unravel. And so the idea that they were going to be able to stop Trump politically, and Nikki Haley surging, Governor Haley surging, and Republicans feel very differently about him, if he was convicted and stuff. And in fact, now these same people that are getting beat by Trump, that are connected, I believe, to the DeSantis camp or something like that, are like, well, it's because they came after him that Trump's poll surge. And there is some truth to that. You see that they're in the timeline that people did sort of rally around Trump, but they did it, I believe, because they saw, like, look, this is out of control. You know what I mean? And if they can take, out Trump and not even allow us, we want to be able to choose our president, not have the media and not have the judicial system, choose our president, if you will. And they can take out Trump, a former president and a billionaire and a global celebrity. They can take out anybody. And someone else had this little short up there, and I can't remember who it was, on YouTube. And it basically was saying, and again, it doesn't matter. It's sort of like what this analyst said, what I said before. If you take any one of these cases individually, I'm not speaking on the facts or any of these cases. I don't know. But it was like, anyone that questioned, I think the person said the Matrix or something like that. That's the language that Tate uses, a fair amount. And I think Russell Brand as well. Somehow or another, they get punked out and they get canceled and they get these charges against them and stuff. And they went through Andrew Tate and Russell Brand and, Mel Gibson and President Trump. And it just went down. And it was quite a list. Elon Musk. Right. It was quite a list. And it just looks like, when you put it all together, is there some kind of playbook? Is there some kind of cancel playbook? And, Aaron Rodgers now can't be on ESPN and stuff like that. Like, so there's a lot of weird stuff. And meanwhile, we have Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. I still don't know how they met. Not that I care. I really don't want to know. But it's just, it's very odd that now, months after the breathless coverage, that, oh, well, geez, maybe we need to explain this. Maybe, it's like seeing a movie with the character and there's no backstory. And the backstory maybe doesn't make so much sense. It doesn't matter. Like, it's just, and then it's like, oh, well, the relative. Okay, right. The relative somehow gets to hang out with Super Bowl champs and I don't know, dude. It's just kind of, yeah. Anyway, the bottom line is this. New Hampshire, I think, is going to just I don't think this effectively shut the door for the challengers. I think any people like us that are experienced, I think I said it before that it looked over before they even caucus. We had the show up there, but I think now that we have the votes back, they were even more confirming out of Iowa. It went the way that we predicted, if you will. And I think if you win in New Hampshire, I don't think there's, if Trump wins in New Hampshire, I don't see any path forward for any of these other candidates. Paul, would you agree with that?
I totally agree with that, and I wrote as much. I basically said New Hampshire could be Haley's Waterloo if she loses.
There you go. Okay. Excuse me. So we're going to wind it down here. Any final comments that you have, Paul, before we sign off here?
No, look, this is great. As you said, we'll do this as frequently as we can. A lot of times it will be shorter. We're not just going to talk about ourselves the whole show as we did yesterday. That was an intro show. What we're going to do is probably going to look a lot more like this.
There you go. Hey, we appreciate everyone out there. Thanks so much for joining us. For Paul, I'm John D. Villarreal. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Have a good evening.